What do you do on a discovery call when a potential client says, I'm not interested? Well, what we don't want to do is jump right into, why are you not interested? Because they don't actually have to tell you. And we also don't want to create sales friction and make it weird in that moment. So we need to handle this with a little more finesse. First of all, tip 1, don't get defensive. It's not personal. I know it can feel really frustrating because you put your heart and soul into this. You care about helping people. I get all of that. This isn't about you, so don't get defensive. And ultimately, it's really helpful to remember it takes between 8 to 12 touch points before somebody's ready to buy. So if they've said, I'm not interested, it might be bad timing, or maybe they really don't have it in their budget. Tip number 2, with the goal of keeping them in your world and potentially serving them at a later date, here's a few suggestions. When they say, I'm not interested, you could say, I understand. I'd be curious to know what it is that you're really looking for. Maybe they'll share. And if they do, maybe there's some other way that you could offer a solution to them or offer help to them. Because if you know a little bit more about why they're not interested, maybe there's an opportunity for you to still provide free value and keep them in your world so that when they are ready, they know who to buy from. And ultimately, I'm not interested might not be their final answer. So be willing to ask some of these questions. Tip number 3 is another solution for how you could respond to I'm not interested. Sometimes we have to be willing to dig a little bit. Sometimes we have to be willing to challenge people with the questions that we ask. Why don't you try responding like this? Just out of curiosity, is there anything that would make it interesting to you? A really powerful way to stay in the game, to keep the conversation going. You might potentially uncover that they actually are interested. There was just something standing in the way. Maybe the amount of money that you were asking for is something that they felt like they weren't prepared to pay, but maybe there's a payment plan that you have that they didn't know about. So when you're willing to challenge somebody and go there, then ultimately you might uncover some really important information that actually does move the conversation in a way that benefits you and them. One way that you could ask what it is that's not interesting to them, say, I understand. I'm just curious. What makes you say that? And then they get to share whatever they want to share about why they said they're not interested. The goal is to still be able to find a solution for them. Maybe the solution is a different payment plan that they didn't know that you had. Maybe the solution is one-on-one coaching instead of group coaching, but they thought all you offered was group coaching. Maybe the solution is you have a smaller bite-sized offer, or maybe you have some kind of free value that you could provide to them until they get to a place of being interested. The whole point is the conversation is where the magic will unfold, and you being willing to ask some questions and challenge them a little bit will uncover some really helpful information. The other bonus is it gives you an opportunity to follow up. Let's say the information you uncover is that they were really interested in a group program, but all you offered at the time was one-on-one. Once you have a group program, you have somebody to reach out to who you know is interested. Tip number 4, you're playing the long game. Just because they're not interested right now doesn't mean that they're not going to be interested down the road. There's now buyers, there's soon buyers, and there's later buyers. Some people are really interested in working with you, but maybe they're not quite in a position to buy right now. Well, that doesn't mean that down the road or very soon, they won't be in a position to buy. So you're always playing the long game. You always want to look at making customers, not sales. You could still build rapport and continue the conversation with them that down the road would really make them want to work with you. And as I mentioned before, it takes at least 8 to 12 touch points before somebody is in a position to buy. So ultimately, anybody you're speaking with who might not be interested in this moment or in this one specific thing still had given you their time and attention and may very well be interested in something down the road. So you're playing the long game. And that brings me to tip number 5. The fortune is in the follow-up. Only 2% of sales happen on the first contact. That means you're missing out on 98% of your sales if you don't follow up with people, if you don't have a plan for staying connected with them. Many of your sales will be a no at first, and then they'll turn into a maybe and then a yes later on because of your ability to stay in the relationship, to stay in connection with them. And maybe that means you have a community somewhere that they can join. Maybe that means you schedule it on your calendar to follow up with them every so often. Or you could also offer to send them something that would be really helpful. Maybe they say, well, what I'm really looking to do right now is get in a good habit with my workouts. And I know I'm going to want a coach, but I want to prove it to myself first that, I can do this. Well, in that moment, you can say, would it help if I sent you a 4-week workout plan you could follow? Maybe that's really easy for you to come up with and share with them. That's really valuable for them. And guess what that gives you the opportunity to do in a couple of weeks? Follow up with them because you want to find out how the workout's going. You want to find out how accountable they were to what they said that they were going to do. And you've now gained permission to follow up. You gave something of value. You asked if you could follow up in a couple of weeks to see how it's going. And now you've continued the conversation and you've gotten permission to do it. And if you're looking for support with your discovery calls so that you have the exact steps you need, check out my How to Improve Your Discovery Calls in 12 Minutes video.